wanted to start with a memory. When I was a kid, I remember standing in a bathroom scraping the tile around an old bathtub. My grandfather had just handed me a tool and gave me a job to do. It probably lasted half an hour, but to me it felt like a full day's work. When we were done, he took my dad and me to a corner bar called Zot's in Wallington, New Jersey. He lifted me onto a bar stool, ordered me a half glass root beer or ginger ale, and I got a sandwich, ham and cheese or corned beef and Swiss on rye with a pickle. Zot's was a working man's bar. Small beer glasses, 50 cents a beer. A lot of guys ordered a shot with a beer chaser. It was just part of the rhythm of life back then. Work, tools, food, alcohol, all of it in the same place. Alcohol was a constant in my early life. It was normal, it was everywhere, and later it became something I could not control. More on that later. My name is Drew, and this is Measure Twice, Live Once. This is a story about building things, not just with wood and tools, but building a life, losing it, and building it back again. I come from a long line of people who work with their hands. My grandfather Andy served in World War II in the 100th Battalion. After the war, he wanted to arrange music, but it didn't pay the bills, so he became a tile contractor in Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey. He was good. At one point, you could drive through town and not find a street he hadn't worked on. He drove a Ford van filled with tools and tile. His garage looked the same way, everything packed, everything used, nails, screws, hardware, all sorted into 5-cent cigar boxes with stenciled labels. I still have some of those boxes. He taught my dad how to tile. He also taught him to drywall, and my dad got very good at both. And my dad passed that on to me. We moved to Columbia, Maryland in 1974. My parents bought a split-level Ryland home at the end of a cul-de-sac in James Rouse's planned city. The basement was unfinished, and my dad built it out himself. Bathroom, tile, drywall. Behind the bathroom was the laundry room and his workshop. His workbench was an old corridor. There were scrap pieces of wood and pipe in the rafters. His old red clamshell toolbox sat nearby. There was a winding pencil sharpener, pegboard tool holders. My grandfather's cigar boxes were up on a shelf. Everything started in that shop. I built pinewood derby cars in there. My dad showed me how to melt lead and pour it into the bottom for weight. He showed me how to use graphite on the wheels. Sometimes I built things just to build them, and sometimes I took things apart just to see what was inside. I loved that shop. It felt like it had always been there. My dad had a lot of tools, and he believed in keeping everything. Every screw, every spring. You didn't throw things away. His hammer, to me, felt like power, like something important. He had strong hands, thick knuckles, just like his father. Everything in that shop had little white paint specks on it. His jeans, his flannel shirt hanging in the corner. Even his old prescription glasses he used in the name of safety. While I loved his tools, I also misplaced his tools, and eventually I would hear it. "Where is my hammer?" I knew that was coming back to me, so I would freeze, hide, wait. Sometimes that meant more than just getting yelled at. My dad believed in physical discipline, and I felt it. There were good moments and hard ones. When I was 13, my parents got divorced. It was not a matter of whom I wanted to live with. I just wanted to stay with my mother and the house. My dad moved into a nearby apartment, and it was in rough shape. Roaches, bad smell, but part of his rent was fixing it up, and he did. After a couple of years, he moved back into the house, and that was a big day. He loved that house. And selfishly, I was glad because it meant I had a shop again. This goes back further than my dad and my grandfather. My third great-grandfather, William Diedrich, came to America as a 48er and worked as a cabinet maker in New York City. Later, he moved to West New York, New Jersey. I'm sure that's where some of this comes from. Somewhere along the way, I lost everything. Tools, shop, stability. I didn't lose it all in one moment. It went in pieces. Tools first, then the space, then the habit of building it all. At some point, alcohol stopped being part of the background and became something I couldn't control. I stopped because I was a drunk. I was getting divorced and I entered a year of treatment, and I had to start over. I also had to get sober. Today, I have 12 years of sobriety, and it took me a long time to understand what was happening in that house, and even longer to figure out what to do with it. I live with multiple sclerosis. Both of those things changed how I work, how I build, how I think about time and energy. This podcast is about rebuilding a woodshop from nothing, buying tools one at a time, figuring out what matters and what doesn't. It's also about family, what gets passed down, what gets lost, what gets repaired. Because for me, building has never really been optional. It's just what I do, and this time I'm building it back on purpose. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week. Keep building.